We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Saturday. That means Ed is joining us today. And what an opportune time to have Ed in after kind of a momentous night yesterday. Ed, thanks for joining us. I know we got a lot of shit to talk about.
Yeah, we do, but yeah, I'm still kind of on an elated high here from Joe's performance last night. Now, it wasn't perfect, and nothing ever is, but by golly, he showed us exactly what he needed. He's already being compared to Truman back in 1948, I guess it was, when everybody had written him off. Democrats were going, maybe we should try to get somebody else. He's a weak sister, blah, blah, blah. And he turned in to give him hell Harry and won the presidency. So he's being they're comparing this kind of a comeback for Joe Biden. I think Joe's just been waiting in the weeds, if you know what I mean, and Reddy was always capable of doing this. It's just that his timing seems to be pretty impeccable. Remember that they were right; they wrote him off at least twice when he was running for president
Right.
in the primary process. Well, Biden can't win. Why is he even in this? He's too old. Yeah, boom. And guess who comes out on top? I think he's been at this game so long that he knows exactly what to do. And he played the Republicans last night so well. It's like he knew exactly what they were going to do. He led him into a trap, and then he whacked him with a club. It was perfect. And it called out the Supreme Court to their faces, and called out the guy sitting behind him, shaking his head, looking like a howdy doody puppet,
Yeah.
to his face, essentially, although he was looking at the back of his head. But still, with the border legislation that he's got in his pocket, there was a lot that went on last night, and there's been the response even from Peggy Noonan and from the Wall Street Journal and places like that. They're noting that, yeah, this really happened. This was not just, some old guy yelling, get off my lawn, as people are trying to characterize it. This was a guy who knew exactly where he wanted to go, and he went there.
Well, he's pacing himself. He knows that if he starts too fast, people forget shit. He's coming on at the right time. And actually,
Right.
Mike Johnson was trying to own Joe Biden by forcing him to delay uh, the State of the Union speech. Normally, it happens in January, and Mike Johnson said, "No, we'll just do it in
Right.
March," which played right into
Yeah.
benefiting Joe Biden because it's that much closer to the election, and it was after Super Tuesday. So once again, the Republicans
Yeah.
fucking own themselves. You know, it's amazing to me how people are so surprised that Joe Biden did what he did. I think what's happens with the Republicans is they lie so much about Joe Biden. I mean, they're very prolific about it. They lie and they lie to the point where they actually believe it. And then when they find out their lies are in fact
Absolutely.
lies, they are pushed back on their heels. They are gobsmacked. But I will tell you one thing I talked about in TikTok that concerns me, and hopefully this taught some people a lesson. As much as people bought into the lies, there are some Democrats that buy into the lies too. This shit goes out in the ether. They
For
spread it
sure.
and they spread it, and then people think it must be true. Well, like you say, what happened yesterday. There's no two ways about it. For a guy who can't complete a sentence, he went an hour and a half and he pretty much uh, was unfaltered. Everything went pretty well. There's some
Yeah.
stumbles and stuff. I mean, you would do it, I would do it if we went an hour and a half, but it was almost perfect. It was almost perfect the way he laid it out.
Yeah.
And he never got shook. People screaming from the audience or looking right at the Supreme Court. He was on point the whole way and he was in control. That was his fucking show yesterday. And I don't care what the Republicans say. They can't deny it because we all seen it.
Yeah, and I don't know if Joe came up with it or a speechwriter or whoever came up with the when he called out the Supreme Court. Now, this also goes to the Johnson delay tactic. He would not have had this this IVF as a weapon to use.
Right.
Saying that that's because of the chaos created by the rolling back Roe v. Wade that the Supreme Court did, which is absolutely true. He wouldn't have had that because they wouldn't have had the Alabama decision that put that in the news. So once again, Johnson shoots himself in the foot. Just a second, knocked over my phone here. There we go. I'm back.
Ed just
no one
shot
was
him.
injured.
Ed just shot himself in the foot.
Shot himself in the foot. Yes, I'm capable of that as well. Now, but what he said to the Supreme Court was, in their decision, they said women still have the ability to vote. And for now, but we're working on that. But yeah, and then he put it right back to them. You better believe it, and you're going to find that out. And that was perfect. I have not seen a better retort, a better burn in a State of the Union speech ever, any political speech ever. It's the best burn I've ever seen. So focused right into the face of the Supreme Court justices who did it.
And I almost think, I don't know for sure because I didn't see the text of the speech, but I almost think that was an ad lib because he saw the opportunity. He saw the opportunity, and his point is well taken. You've underestimated the power of women, and you're going to find out very soon. This is something I've been saying all along. You can take all the other issues you want, but that Roe v. Wade issue, that is the death knell of the Republican Party. And if it's the death knell of the Republican Party, you can blame the Supreme Court for that. And the Supreme Court is going to suffer the consequences after the Republicans get pounded because they're going to expand the court, look at impeachments, whatever they do. The court is not going to have this free reign to do whatever they fucking want after November.
Well, right. And it also kind of put the IVF decision in Alabama did something else too, because Republicans immediately saw, this is a loser. We screwed up. We got to fix this. But in fixing it, they totally destroyed the underpinning of this unborn personhood, this embryonic personhood argument they have, because if a frozen embryo is a person and they get destroyed, you just committed murder. So in essence, you have to say, no, they're not, in order to make IVF possible. And we know they're not people. We know that, right? But
absolutely.
Just because some hick jurist down in Alabama thinks he's got a winner and throws it out there. I mean, the guy's psycho. Let's from the word go. Yeah. But still, they managed to do it. But now they've got egg on their face because they have to walk it back and they have to destroy the basis for that argument. In doing so, there's no other way to do it. So a big loss for them, big win for women and anybody else who believes in reproductive freedom.
But you know what about the Republicans? No matter how bad they fuck up, they can't help themselves. They have to double down. They had the response to the State of the Union given by a freshman senator, Katie Britt from Alabama.
Katie Britt, yeah.
And
I mean that to me, that you got to look at that and say, you had everybody else to pick from. You go to Alabama when they just screwed you. It makes no sense.
Well, I think what happened there, I'm guessing, but I think she was kind of a sacrificial lamb. I don't think anybody wanted to be the person giving the response after Joe Biden. They probably had a sense that something was going to go down. You give Joe Biden an hour and a half to talk to the entire nation. You're going to have some questions to answer, and anybody with any intelligence or any experience doesn't want to do that. So they put up this young woman, this millennial, and what's happening to her is exactly what all the smart people thought would happen. She's getting absolutely destroyed. She was ridiculous. She was lying. She had this fake emotion to try to play on sympathies. She looked like something out of a soap opera. I mean, it was horrible. It was embarrassing. I almost felt bad for her until I realized she's a Trumplefuck. And then I said, good. I hope you fucking embarrassed.
Well, this is the thing, and tone deaf, I think, is the thing that you have to realize that the Republicans are continually tone deaf in the sense that you could have taken this same woman and made her look professional and put her in the right environment. She still would have failed because,
Yeah.
quite frankly, she's don't got the goods. But you put her in a kitchen, for God's sake. I mean, the only thing they could have done worse was to put her in a negligee and stick her in a bedroom or something. I mean, this is they want to create this image. This is their perfect woman, the woman who says, well, I'm a senator, but first I'm a wife and a mother, and
Yeah.
my kitchen is my favorite place, or whatever, and that's just the image, just the wrong image. But it's the image, I guess, they think their base embraces. That's all I can figure. But whoever made that decision has to be seriously challenged
Yeah,
in mental
absolutely.
capacity, or the image that they want to send, because that is not what any woman wants to see, or any thinking woman wants to see in this day and age. Certainly, um, you can cook as a woman, you can
Yeah.
do that, but to make that the identity of the spokesperson for the Republican Party, uh, at the in the response to the State of the Union, and all she had to offer, you noticed, was fear.
Yeah, exactly. It's
That
all
was
about
it.
fear.
I'm scared. I'm scared. The world is a scary place, and I'm just a little woman here in my kitchen, and I'm afraid we need a big scary man to take care of things for us, like Donald Trump. I mean, that's the message, right?
Well, and that's the contrast here. Everything she talked about, everything Republicans
Yeah.
talk about is about fear. Joe Biden, on the other hand, was very inspirational. It was all about hope. It was all about better things to come. And that's what people want to hear. We will see better times. What amazes me about the Republicans is they want to overturn Roe v. Wade. They want to make women second class citizens. Over and over, it doesn't work. 2022 was a prime example of
No.
that. It did not work for them, but they still want to embrace it. They're so stubborn, they won't let it go, even though they know it's going to fail. You keep saying that they want to appeal to their base. Well, unfortunately, their base isn't that big. It's 25, 30%. You got them locked
No.
down because they're fucking stupid. You've got the independents, the moderates, the Democrats, the reasonably minded Republicans. That's who you need to get. And they just refuse to try.
Yeah, I don't know who was directing the show last night, but they did some brilliant maneuvers too. Here you have Joe bringing up the border deal.
Yeah.
And what a travesty it was that Trump was able to call up the guy sitting behind Joe, shaking his head, and tell him, no, no, we can't do that. I need the win. I can't let Biden have a win by solving the problem. No, no, no. So he, of course, won't bring it to the House floor. And so they cut away to James Langford,
Yeah. Yeah.
the very conservative senator who worked on this and put his stamp of approval on it and tried to get it through. And he is nodding along with Joe, saying, and you mouthing the words deliberately, "That's the truth. That's true." And they kept doing that as Joe was speaking. It was perfect. I mean, it was using the Republicans' own failures against them with testimony from one of their own. And I have to believe that was planned ahead of time, quite frankly,
Yeah.
that he was in on it, and that we're going to zoom in on you, so say truth.
Well, you
And
notice,
because probably he still thinks there's a chance to get it done.
well, the interesting thing about James Lankford, you maybe noticed when he took the video of him, the video cut to him, he wasn't sitting next to anybody. He was alone by himself, and he was
No.
mad that this thing didn't get
Yeah.
passed. You know what's interesting about Katie Britt? Katie Britt was one of the people working on that bipartisan bill, putting it together, building that bipartisan bill. And then when it came to the
Yeah,
Senate floor, she voted against her very own bill. So the audacity of her blaming
yeah,
Joe Biden for the border when she voted against her own bill. I think Joe did a great job flipping the script a little bit and saying, let's do something about the border, man.
yeah,
I'm ready. I got this thing in my pocket. Let's go. Sign that fucking bill. Now the
yeah.
onus is on the Republicans. They're the ones not doing the border work, and they fuck that up to unbelievable amounts. They fuck that up.
Absolutely, and it could still be done, but
Yeah,
it won't be done because let's face it, Johnson is. I can't even come up with. Well, he's kind of a cipher. I mean, she was. I don't know if you remember this or not. There was a book and then a movie. I think it's been done a couple of times in different ways. But the Stepford Wives back
yeah,
in,
yeah,
I guess it was the '70s when I first read it.
yeah,
Ira Levine's book, and then the movie. Um, but the idea that these women, these guys don't like their feminist wives, so they're replacing them with these look-alike robots,
yeah,
right? That are great in the sack and great at cooking and all of the things that they want in a woman, and that's what I thought of when I saw Katie Britt. Here we are,
yeah.
the Stepford wife doing the response to Joe's State of the Union address, and then you have Mike Johnson, who is the male equivalent of a Stepford wife.
Yeah,
Not a
exactly.
thinking person. He is programmed. He is a programmed automaton with religious programming that will not let him do anything beyond the programming that he has. That's exactly what he is. And that's what a lot of the people in the House of Representatives on the Republican side are. And it's like McCarthy said when he left, you look at us, or you look at them, they look like America. You look at us, we look like the most exclusive country club in the country. And it's true. And that is the same thing. That's where the Stepford wives and the Stepford husbands are in their glory in the
I
country clubs.
I have to
And
be
yes, that's where they are.
I have to be honest and give full disclosure. When Stepford Wives came out as a movie, I saw the movie. And in my younger days,
Yeah.
in a different mindset, not knowing what I know about women now, I was kind of disappointed that that was science fiction and not real. Now, as I get older, I realize that's fucking ridiculous because, but the interesting thing is when Joe's
where
up
can
to,
I get where can I get me one of
I'm gonna get a
them?
Stepford wife. Heck yeah. No, but when I'm watching Joe up there talking, and we see Kamala Harris on his left or his right, actually, she came off very good and very strong too. She stood up, she nodded, she did all the things. But as you said, on his left side, our right
Yeah,
side, Mike Johnson, he just looked weird and creepy. And I wasn't sure if he was acknowledging or denying. He'd shake his head.
exactly.
Did he realize he was that visible on camera because he looked like an absolute idiot? He must know. He's been in
Well, he
Congress for
should
long.
have.
Yeah,
Yeah, you would think so, but I mean, when Joe is saying we're going to eliminate fentanyl, and he sits there while Kamala's up on her feet and half the auditorium is on their feet. Yeah, let's do that, and they're going, no, we want to keep it. I mean, that's what they're doing when they fail to respond.
right, right.
Right? That's just insane. And anyone watching had to pick up on that. It's like um, Joe said it. You can't just love your country when you win.
Right.
And the corollary of that is you can't just want to do things for your country that you get the credit for.
Right. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
look at these. And for example, the infrastructure bill. And they're always. You've probably seen it in Minnesota. I know I've seen it. In other places where maybe the governor of Florida or somebody's out there where they're doing this new airport extension or something like that, and they're
Right.
talking about how great it's going to be. And that's Biden money. I mean, that's where that money came from because Biden put together the infrastructure bill and got enough Republican votes to get it through. But they voted against it in so many cases. Like here in Tennessee, anytime there's anything like that done, all of the Tennessee delegation in the House and the Senate voted against the infrastructure bill. But oh, they love that money and they try to take credit for it, even though they voted against it.
Well, that was kind of what Joe Biden did. Again, it was another ad lib. He was talking about the infrastructure bill and
Yeah,
he got some booze and he goes, "Oh, you don't like the money? Well, let us know. We'll take it back." And these people walk into these situations when they were talking about
exactly.
the border bill. This is the Republicans' big talking point. Joe's leaving the border open. Joe brings up the border bill, and what do the Republicans do? They fucking boo it. They boo the very thing that they put together that they
Yeah.
wanted and complained about. They expose themselves for how much bullshit they really are. They don't care about the border. And the people who watch and
Yes.
support Republicans need to
No.
recognize that. They don't want to fix the border. They just want Joe Biden to look bad. And the bottom line is we all have to live in this country. We need the protections that our government is supposed to provide. But if they're not providing those protections simply for political reasons, you got to second guess these motherfuckers.
Yeah. Well, and how many of the Republicans are the beneficiaries of the labor of undocumented aliens? I would imagine that the owners of the companies who routinely employ them are probably quite often
Yeah.
Republicans,
Yeah.
maybe most of the time,
Right.
and they benefit from it. But yet they constantly bemoan the fact that undocumented aliens arrive in our country or undocumented workers arrive in our country, even though they're exploiting them all the time. This two-faced business drives me crazy, but it's true. Let me throw this in just because it occurred to me. I saw a statistic today that surprised even me that of the 42 million jobs created since 1989, 97% were created in Democratic administrations.
Wow.
Does that surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me. I mean,
97%.
I mean, just one comparison tells you the whole story. Since Joe's been in office, he's created almost 16 million jobs. While Donald Trump was in office for 4
Yeah,
years, he lost 2.5 million jobs. So that's quite a
a net
contrast.
loss.
Absolutely, a net
Him and
loss.
Hoover. Yeah,
Yeah.
Trump and Hoover.
I mean that. Yeah,
The
that's
only two of the in the
let,
that tells you all you need to know right there.
right. Absolutely. Now let me ask you this.
I
This
assume it's because. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you this speech, this State of the Union speech. You think this is a game changer for the perception of Joe Biden? Do you think this is a turning point in the campaign?
Yeah, I do, and I think it was planned that way. I think, like I said, I think Joe's been waiting in the weeds for several weeks now, maybe even months.
Yeah.
This is the beginning. This speech is the beginning of the Biden campaign for president, and I don't think he's going to let up. I think you're going to see uh, uh, reprises of this speech in various parts of it from now on. I think he laid out. He talked about what he accomplished. He talked about what he wants to accomplish. He talked about the failures of Trump. He talked about how Trump is essentially a traitor, how Trump is, cozying up to Putin. And while Joe is here giving the State of the Union address, what's Trump doing? He's meeting with Viktor Orban down at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, this is tantamount to Hitler and Mussolini getting together for a little palaver. That's
Yeah.
what's going on. I mean, Orban's that bad. I mean, he is he's Trump's hero, along with Putin and Kim Jong Un and so forth. Who, I mean, what he's doing in Hungary is what Trump wants to do here: destroy the judiciary, bridle on the media, and so forth. All of these things to create this authoritarian state. Orban's doing. He's showing Trump how to do it, and Trump is just chomping at the bit to get started again and do it himself. But that's what this is about. I mean, it's supposed to be about Ukraine, and of course, Orban is a big Putin guy too. So they're trying to put together some sort of united front to deny Ukraine their freedom and let Trump or let Putin take over Ukraine. That's what this is all about. And quite frankly, I think it's traitorous.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. Joe Biden started out with a bang in the State of the Union address, but he's got to keep up the pressure between now and November. He's going to have to come out every couple of weeks with some strong statements because that's how the game is
Yeah.
played now. This is how the Republicans play the game. They try to control the narrative. They're aggressive and they're adversarial. And Joe's going to kind of have to play that game, maybe a little better than they do, maybe a little more genteel than they do, but he's got to go after Trump. He's got to go after the Republicans and expose them for who they are and be tough all the way. I mean, we proved as a country that we need a tough guy leading us. That's what draws people in. And while Joe Biden will never be Donald Trump, thankfully, he still can be tough and he can put the pressure on. He showed last night or the night before he could do that, and that needs to continue from not only Donald Trump, but all the Democrats for that matter. It's time to ramp it up.
Right. And being tough is one thing. Being a strong man is something totally
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
A tough president puts together a team to do what he wants to get done, and then he supports them. He seeks their advice and so forth. I mean, look at this. Look at this administration. Has Joe Biden lost anyone? No.
No.
How many did Trump go through? I mean, he's replacing his attorney general, then he's replacing his this one and that one and this one and that one. And nobody served with him has a good word to say about him, except maybe Stephen Miller or somebody like that. I mean, he could not play well with others. He knew, number one, he had no agenda. He didn't know what to do. And he wants to fire from the hip and do whatever he wants and have military parades and this, that, and the other thing. But he is not a public servant. He's out to get everything for himself, and he cannot collaborate. I mean, look at his company. That's why it's always been just family and a few lieutenants, not like a major corporation by any means. It's
No.
like a small business, and it's really more like a mafia business, is what it is. But that's what it is, and so anybody who had the resources that Donald Trump had, that his father left him, should be Elon Musk. They should be on the level of the billionaires, and Trump is not there.
No, he's not even close. And we'll talk more about that after the break. But the thing is, when I was doing the TikToks talking about the speech, I got a lot of people coming to my page saying, "Well, I didn't see it like that." Well, we have to understand, people always say to me, well, you never change the minds of the Trump base. And that's true. We will never change the minds of
No.
the Trump base, but we don't need to change the minds of the Trump base. We need to change the minds of the
Mm-mm.
independent and the moderates. There was an interesting fact that came out during the Super Tuesday elections. Nikki Haley was able to take a lot of votes from Donald Trump, which is troubling and tells you the party isn't unified, which is devastating in a general election.
Right.
But even more importantly than that, a fairly high percentage of like 30% of the people that voted for Nikki Haley in the exit polls said they will never
Yeah.
vote for Donald Trump. So my question is, if you don't have all the Republicans, all the people in your party behind you, how do you win an election? You don't have the moderates. You don't have the independents. You certainly
Well,
don't have the Democrats, and you don't have
no,
all the Republicans. You can't win.
exactly. Now, um, what was it? He slammed the door on the Haley voters and the Haley funders,
Right.
saying, if you fund Haley, then you are banned from the MAGA movement forever.
Right.
Now, of course, he would crawl back on that, of course, once he needs the money. But he did say it. He did indicate that they were dead to him, so to speak. And I don't think they'll forget that. I do think that it's a leap from Nikki Haley to Joe Biden, but maybe it's not a leap to, maybe they vote for Kennedy, maybe they vote for Dean Phillips or somebody, but a vote not for Trump, a Republican vote not for Trump is a vote for Biden.
Right.
So I don't
Right.
care who they vote for as long as they don't vote for Trump.
Well, and Trump saying that about the Nikki Haley voters is proof that Donald Trump is not a thinking man. He's an
Yeah.
emotional little child. And if he doesn't get his way, he gets mad and say, I don't need you. Go away. But he does need them. And he is going to lose when he
Mhm.
pushes them away. But he's willing to do that just to show he's tough or smarter or better than somebody else. And it's just not going to fucking work.
Yeah, I was amused. I mean, he was supposed to be rage tweeting all through Biden's speech, but Truth Social crashed on him,
Did it
which
really?
is perfect. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure all the
I
little
had
Trumplefucks.
big outages all across the country. So I'm sure they were going, "Oh, Joe Biden's doing it. He's fucking with Truth Social or whatever." But
It always
no,
amazes
apparently
me.
it was just collapsed under its own weight.
It's always amazes me how they can say 1 minute that Joe Biden is a doddering old man, and then in the next sentence
Yeah.
say he's a master criminal genius. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't have it both ways. But they will say anything that comes to mind that they think will benefit them, and I think people are finally catching on to that. That these guys are, or these Republicans are just children, just grasping at anything to try to win. It truly shows, it exposes their desperation.
Yeah, I mean, I always go back to what Trump said when he first came down that escalator about the people coming across the border. I always apply that to Republicans in the House of Representatives. When it comes to the House of Representatives, the Republicans are not sending their best. They're sending criminals and rapists and so forth. And that pretty much describes a goodly portion of the House of Representatives. I mean, but look at these people. Look at uh, Jim Jordan and all of these other just subhuman species. I'm not
Yeah.
even sure they're actual humanoids, but yet they're there. Someone voted for them. Someone elected them, and that's just insane.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We've got some other stuff to talk about that's going on in the news that pretty interesting. So I'm anxious to get started on that. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. So we have Ed on the program, the Rational Boomer podcast, and we're going to move on to some other things of interest in terms of all things fucked up with Donald Trump. We knew that he had till today to come up with a $91.6 million bond. And we know that Letitia James, I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
E. Jean Carroll's lawyer Kaplan had said, look, if he doesn't come up with the money, we're going to
Yeah,
go to court and look at seizing and liquidating his properties. Well, that obviously had
right,
Donald Trump really nervous about it, and he was trying to get delays, and none of that worked. But today, not today,
right.
yesterday, Donald Trump did in fact post a $91.6 million bond. And I found that interesting. Turns out he didn't have the cash. He didn't have the cash to do it. He got a bond which means somebody loaned him the money to put up the bond, which I find very interesting because in order to, there can only be one of two things that happened. He was able to pull enough unencumbered property together to protect that money from whoever lent it to him. Uh, but the people who lent it to him have to presume that they're going to lose the money. Whatever he put up had to be at least that much, probably more, because they're going to be stuck with a bunch of property instead of cash. And that's quite a position to put somebody in. Or somebody like Elon Musk just handed them $90 million. It seems like the second option seems more likely because that's a relatively small amount for a guy like Elon Musk. I don't know. What are your thoughts about how he pulled this off?
Well, we know he went to visit with Elon, and
Right.
then Elon came out and said, I'm not donating to either campaign, but he did not say I didn't give him a loan or post his bond for him. So I think that might be a good bet, in exchange for unnamed future favors and so forth, hedging his bets, so to speak. If Trump should, by some miracle, be elected. And let's face it, Elon hasn't really shown a lot of good judgment over the last couple of years.
No.
What with buying Twitter and essentially trashing it and losing half its value and so forth. And he hadn't had a lot of wins lately. So, maybe he did. Maybe he decided to take a chance on Trump or something. But whoever it is somebody who can spare the money, that's for sure. And there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
We've learned that by looking at the people who wine and dine in Supreme Court justices. There's a lot of money to be thrown around on the right wing side of things. So it could be a lot of different people, but my money's on Elon.
Yeah, that makes more sense given that he talked to him. But the thing about it is people have to understand that 91 million that's in that bond. Donald Trump and whoever helped him put on the bond will never see that money again. That money's gone. It might sit there for 3 months or a year while the appeal process is going on, but Donald Trump's not going to win the appeal. Whatever deal was cut with whoever borrowed him the money,
No.
that's already a done deal. If he put up property, well, then he's going to lose that property. Maybe not today or Monday, but ultimately when the appeal fails, because it's going to fail. People say, how are you so sure it's going to fail? Well, because he committed the fucking crime on video on national television. He did it. There's no question he did it.
Exactly.
So it's going to fucking fail. You have to think though that getting $500 million in 2 weeks, which is the next problem he's got, is going to be a little different. You got to think even Elon Musk is going
A
to
little
think
bit.
twice about putting $500 million up. So he's trying to delay that too, and it's not working. But he's going to be scrambling still for the next 2 weeks, just trying to pull money together out of couch cushions or whatever the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, and I understand that. It's not over for him either. Both, I believe is it Arizona or that
Yeah.
he may be sued there on election related problems. Plus, Scotland's taken a look at the way he ran his business in New York, and apparently they're saying, hey, he did the same thing here. He overestimated his wealth in order to get loans, getting special deals and so forth when he was developing his properties here. So now they may be going after him now that they have a precedent. So there's a lot of things happening, and this is the thing: the civil trials. Let's face it, Trump always loses.
Yeah.
When he
He always
goes to
loses.
court, he always loses. When he after the election, 60 different chances to try to prove that the election was stolen. Court threw him all out. He lost. All of his civil trials, he loses because he's guilty. He's guilty of what they claim, and the jury see it and they say, "No, you're going to have to pay." So, and this is the thing. He may delay the criminal trials, and in some alternative universe where he actually wins in November, and he makes those criminal charges go away. The civil awards don't. You
No.
know, that they are set in stone. He still has to pay.
Well, and he lost another civil case yesterday. I don't know if you heard about this. You remember the Steele dossier and how he said it was all phony and all fake and all that stuff? Well, he took Christopher Steele and the organization he worked with to court in England. And when
Yes.
the judge got it and
Orbis.
said, "This is bullshit." No, you lose.
Yeah.
And now he has to pay Christopher
Yeah.
Steele like a $500,000 or Orbis a $500,000. The fucker just keeps losing.
Orbis.
And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
$500,000 isn't a lot of money compared to all the other stuff, but he's getting nickel and dime all over the motherfucking place because now he's got police officers and sitting members of Congress also suing him. He's going to be in lawsuits till the day he dies.
Yeah. With and you know, I'm not going to say hopefully soon because I don't want it to boomerang on me, but the sentiment's out there. Do with it what you will.
Well, Old Soul, I think it's said it best. She
Mm.
says, I never say I wish anybody's death, but there are some obituaries I'm looking forward to reading." I think that puts it well.
Yes, there we go.
So,
Yes,
so
yes, indeed.
in addition to having to scramble over the next 2 weeks to put together a $500 million, which will be interesting to see if he pulls off. I mean, let's be honest. Um, Elon Musk could come up with a $500 million without a fucking blink. He's worth a couple of $100 billion.
Yeah,
So he could come up with the money. The point is when do you stop throwing good money after bad money? There is no return. The only potential return to Elon Musk is that, hey, I could own a president. But if Donald Trump has no opportunity to win the presidency, well, then that's just wasted money because you're never going to get it out of him again. Um, but while all that's going on, guess what? 25th of this month, he starts a criminal trial. And that's going to be devastating because if
yeah.
he gets through this trial and gets
Hmm.
one conviction, that changes the perspective of the
That's all it
electorate.
takes.
It changes the perspective of the electorate, and it changes his potential freedom in the future. He's got 34 counts going against him. Alvin Bragg has a conviction rate of 98%. If you were a betting man, would you think he's going to run the table on this motherfucker? I don't think so.
No, no, I don't either. I was glad to see Joe in his speech, the State of the Union, call out the billionaires and the international corporations for paying such a low amount of taxes and vowing to change that. Now that was he was serving notice with that to the
Yeah.
corporations, to the billionaires. We're coming for you.
Yeah.
So I can see why guys like Elon Musk and the other billionaires might take a look askance and say, well, we can't let that happen. But yet we have billionaires like Warren Buffett who says, you know, look, I paid the taxes that I'm told to pay, and it's not my fault that the Republicans decided that I should pay less, a lower rate than my secretary does. That wasn't my doing. That was their doing. Sure, I take advantage of it, but I should be paying a lot more. He actually said that.
Right.
So
Right.
does Bill Gates and some others who say, look, we get the benefit of this. We didn't ask for it. Who knows? Maybe they did behind the table, but they're still saying that we should be paying more.
Right.
And Buffett and Gates and Cuban and a few others have said their aim is to get rid of as much of their stuff and do good with it, and certainly like Dolly Parton already does to show them the way.
Right.
But and a few other very rich people who seem to have some social responsibility. Now, I think this plays into that statistic I gave you earlier that 42 million jobs created since 1989 were in Democratic administrations. And that because, in general, Democrats raise taxes on rich people. And that forces them to actually invest in things that bring a return that create jobs. That's how it works, folks. That's the economics of it. If you just give rich people more money, they just sit on it.
Right.
There's no
Right.
reason to invest it. There's no reason to do anything with it other than buy another yacht or whatever they choose to do with it. But if you give them tax incentives to invest it, that is what they will do. It makes no sense to do anything else. Just giving tax cuts across the board to rich people accomplishes nothing except making rich people richer. Joe knows that. All the Democrats know that, and that's why they create jobs and Republicans lose them
You know, the
or ship
fact,
them overseas.
the stat that you just gave, was it 49 million since 1989 new jobs?
42.
42 million. Okay.
Yeah,
Here's something
yeah.
interesting about that. Since 1982, 42 million jobs have been created. Joe Biden created 16 million. He's
Mm-hmm.
approaching 40% of all the jobs created, Joe Biden created in the last 3.5 years over a period of what, 34 years? That's fucking crazy. I mean,
And
how do you talk
the
shit about a
reason,
guy who's done that?
well, that's the thing, you know. I mean, and it's easy to see what happens if you look at the records of the Republican administrations versus the Democrats. The Republicans trash the economy, and the first 2 years of any Democratic administration is straightening things out and getting things back on track. So they only have the last, the second term or a portion of the first and second term to create jobs. And it does take a little while to get things rolling again, or we would be doing very much better. Let's put it this way: if we had not had a Reagan or Bush administrations, this country would be in a lot better shape, and certainly no Trump administration. But when you look at the damage done, especially by the Reagan tax cuts and realignment and all of that, George Bush's double wars and recession, and Trump's insane reaction to COVID, and his tariffs, which also had a big negative effect on jobs, then that's why the Democrats are the ones who create jobs. It's just because they're not enacting policies that lose jobs across the board.
Tariffs had a lot of effect on jobs, but it also had an effect on inflation
Yeah,
too, in spite of what they try to tell you about Joe
absolutely.
Biden and inflation. You know, I want to talk about this court case coming up because it's imminent. He's tried to delay it, hasn't been able to do it. The immunity situation doesn't affect this particular case. He's going on trial on March 25th. It is now March 9th. We're talking 16 days away. He's going on trial. Now, this is a much different thing
Yeah,
than he's experienced before. Civil trials, he has the choice. Do I show?
he's
Do I not show? But this is going to be about a 2 to 3 month
yeah,
case, and he has to be there every day. He has to be there every day, and he has to shut his mouth because, unlike the civil trial, with civil trials, you get out of hand. All they can really do is fine you and all that stuff. They really don't do anything. But if you're in a criminal case and you're the defendant and you have a judge like Juan Marchand and you start talking shit,
yeah,
first choice is go to jail. They don't want him
yeah.
there tainting the jury or the witnesses or whatever by
Mm-hmm.
acting out. Judge Marchand is not going to tolerate that bullshit. And Donald Trump's going to have a tough time sitting still every day, 10 hours a day for fucking 3 months.
Oh, he may have a stroke right there.
Yeah.
It could happen.
Keep
He
your fingers
either
crossed.
either that, or he's going to wind up in a holding cell. Yeah, he's going to wind up in a holding cell. You know, because he will not be allowed to disrupt, and that includes muttering under his breath and all of the other things he does.
Yeah.
That or going out at break and trashing the judge and so forth. I mean, that will not be allowed, and I'm not sure he's capable of not doing it.
Well, and Judge Juan Marchand is aware of what Donald Trump is capable of. I don't know if you've heard, but Marchand has said that they are going to keep the jury's names out of the press. Now, the prosecution and the
Yeah,
defense can know their names, but they're intended to be kept out of the press because Juan Marchand takes a look at history and knows they could be in danger by virtue of Donald Trump's behavior. Now, what I'm wondering is Donald Trump
Exactly.
going to be dumb enough to expose some of those names because he will have access to them as part of the defense team, in spite of the fact that Judge Juan Marchand says we're not going to do that. That would have to be a breaking point for any judge for somebody like Donald Trump to show the disrespect, to disregard what this judge wants and reveals the names. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Donald Trump did that and stepped on Marchand's toes.
Oh, like I say, I don't think he can keep from doing it. He might, maybe his lawyers would impress upon him. If you do that, you're going to jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how they work that with Secret Service or whatever, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. But I'm still not sure he's able to contain himself.
But he's still
I
like
mean,
he's like,
narcissists are not.
we got a little lag in the in the connection here. Yeah,
Yeah,
narcissists aren't capable of shutting their mouth, but he's like an ADHD child. The idea that he's going to sit
yeah.
still for 2.5, 3 months and keep his mouth shut, that's just not going to happen. He's going to fuck up at some point. It's going to come to
Maybe
the
they
point.
could. Maybe they could give him puzzles or a laptop with games on it or something to distract him. Maybe that would do it.
It's funny when I see him and his behavior. It reminds me of my granddaughter. Because my wife is a teacher, so she goes, just watch her. Every 15 minutes, it's something different. And I was sitting right where I'm sitting
Mm-hmm.
right now, and my granddaughter was in the back bedroom with my wife watching Bluey, and she looked like she might fall asleep. And then all of a sudden, there was a step stool sitting out here. And she comes running out. She goes, Grandpa, look. And she walks up the step stool and walks back down. I go, wow, that's amazing, honey. And she goes back and lays down with my wife and we're watching Blue again, a show she loves. 15 minutes later, she's back out. Grandpa,
Mm-hmm.
watch what I can do, and goes up the step stool again. That's how I picture Donald Trump. He just cannot sit still. He's like a fucking 3-year-old. And when he's got two problems there.
Exactly.
He's got to sit still, and somebody else is telling him what he must do, and he has to listen. That's not in Donald Trump's
Mm-hmm.
bailiwick. He's done whatever he's wanted for his 77 years. And now to tell him he can't, it's going to be impossible for him to do it.
Well, the other thing, and I've read this, and I have no reason to believe it's not true, but people who were on the set of The Apprentice said the guy was heavy into Adderall and
Yeah.
other drugs, depending. The white flakes coming out of the nose were a routine thing. They had a guy watching for that on camera. But he can be heavily drugged at sometimes, and that's going to influence whether he's able to sit still or not as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. And that's one of the things I wondered about. As much as Joe Biden seemed very cognizant for an hour and a half, Donald Trump can go 15 minutes and just look like an idiot, slurring and making up words and such. And we suggest that it has to do with dementia or senility or something like that. Uh, and that's probably the case, the way he behaves. But you have to wonder if drugs like Adderall or whatever he's on or whatever he's coming down off of doesn't have some impact on the way he talks. I don't know. Not that either one is better.
I think so too. Let me throw this in just at this moment too, because it's been on my mind. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but the worst political ad I think I've ever seen since maybe Willie Horton is this latest one they're running on Biden. Taking a different clips of different with him tripping on the stairs
Yeah.
or having a moment that we all do, like the one I'm
Yeah.
having right now because I'm trying to come up with a word. But yeah, it's and then they cut to Kamala laughing hysterically as if she thinks, "Oh, good, he's." And they ask, "Well, can he even survive?" And she's laughing to indicate that, yeah, she really hopes he dies so she can become president. I mean, that's the implication, right? It's a heinous ad. But I think Joe effectively blew that out of the water last night.
He
So I
did.
was glad to see that.
Yeah, and that's the question I have is after telling folks all the time, every day that he's a doddering fool, he can't complete a sentence. A lot of people watched that uh, speech yesterday, not just Democrats but Republicans too. How do you explain that away? How was it that Joe
Mhm.
Biden was able to go an hour and a half without doing all the things that the Republicans claim he does? Once again, the Republicans try so hard to own the libtards, but all they do is own themselves every fucking time. They did it with the border bill. They're doing it with IVF. They're doing it with everything. And they keep failing, but they keep doing it. They fucking keep doing it.
Well, these are not bright people. That's
No.
what it comes down to. These are not the best and the brightest. They have bleached out the best and the brightest. Do you think James Langford is going to stand for reelection after this betrayal? I question that.
Yeah, I do too.
Look at Mitt Romney. He's out the door. You know, even the nominal Democrat, Kristen Sinema, who was part of the border bill as well. You know, they're all checking out. You know, so anyone who has any semblance of a brain is checking out because they anyone with integrity, let me put it that way, or even people who don't have integrity but see that this is a losing proposition are checking out. Yes, McConnell, I'm talking about you. Um, all of these people, they're disassociating themselves, even though Mitch comes out and my God, he comes out and endorses Trump after essentially saying this guy's guilty of insurrection the day afterward, you know, and then saying, well, we're not going to impeach him. We'll let the courts do it, right? But now he endorses him for president. Now, what sense does that make? It doesn't. So
Well,
Mitch just revealed himself to be totally without integrity,
well,
which we probably do, right?
Mitch revealed the whole party. This is the essence of who the party is. Donald Trump has come out and
Mm-hmm.
tore Mitch McConnell to shreds, tore his wife to shreds. Mitch McConnell has said after the January 6th insurrection that it was Donald Trump's fault, that he should be prosecuted. To this day, Donald Trump continues to rip into Mitch McConnell. He was the one suggesting that he should be kicked out of
Yeah,
leadership. And now we know he's going to be leaving leadership after November. But then he comes out and he endorses Donald Trump. And his answer for it is, well, I'm a Republican. I'm going to endorse the Republican candidate. That tells you a lot about the Republican Party. It's not about the people. It's not about the country. It's
yeah,
about your little fucking club and making your club be the winner, regardless of what damage it does to the country.
yeah.
That's who they are.
Exactly. I mean, anyone who supports him, you know, it drives me crazy. I see interviews at Trump rallies where the you have these people going, "Well, Trump's still president. He's actually running the show. Joe is just an actor, James Woods or somebody, and Jim Carrey. I think Jim Carrey's one of them too. When he falls down, that's Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
You know." And they go, "Well, if Trump is running the show, so inflation is his fault." Well, no, no. I mean, you know, they can't put it together then because everything they're objecting to, they're blaming on Joe. Except then they say Joe's not running the show, so you know, there's no reasoning in this. It's just whatever they throw at them, whatever they say. They believe, they internalize it. It's their new religion.
You know, the
That's
the
part of it.
the people that come up with this shit, this crazy QAnon stuff, I think our media did a disservice where they continue to report this stuff and talk to these people. They lent credence
Mm-hmm.
to people who are simply crazy. I think the only thing we can do at this point is just disregard them and laugh at them because they are jokes. I mean, it's
Well,
all
that's
absolutely ridiculous.
well, and what gets me though is the media who, and CNN, I'm talking about you as much as I am anybody else. This idea where they're always asking people, well, is Joe Biden's age a factor? Him being only 3 years older than Trump. Is Joe Biden's age a factor? Will that affect how you vote? Will his age affect how you vote? In other words, they're saying that. They're
Yeah,
saying Joe's age is a factor, and they're trying to pull it out of people or infuse it into them. It's like with a push poll. And that's essentially what they're doing, and they're doing practically every newscast. So when I say corporate media, I don't mean that just as a descriptive. I mean it as an indictment.
right,
They are
right.
a corporate media, and they are pushing the corporate line in so many ways. I was glad to see Joe call out the companies that are, as he put it, putting fewer chips in the bag for the same price and violating antitrust laws and doing it. That needs to be addressed, and not that specifically about chips, but about everything where they reduce the amount and keep the price the same. Yeah, that needs to be addressed because
Yeah.
that is hurting America as much as anything else. That's hurting the bottom line of anyone who goes to a supermarket and buys food. The companies raising prices for no reason. There needs to They can do that because there is no competition anymore, and we have to. I know that in a second Biden administration, with the House and the Senate, that we will see action on those corporations and the companies that control our food. It has to happen.
Well, and if you're paying attention, whether you be Republican or Democrat, you can see that Joe Biden is doing something for the people almost every day. He got shut down with the loan
Yes.
forgiveness, but he's still coming out with little sections of people every other week or every week that are now getting loan forgiveness. So he's still pushing that through in the only way he can without getting Congress to jump on it. He's also out there knocking down these junk surcharges that banks and credit cards constantly charge
Yeah.
you. Um, and then, of course, he's bringing down pharmaceutical prices. Every day he's doing something to benefit the
Right.
middle class. And his standpoint is let's build from the middle, which makes so much sense. I can't believe the Republicans don't even see it. If the middle class is broke, the country is fucked because we carry this country on our back. And
Yeah.
if we can't move, the rich can't even grift
Yeah.
us anymore because we're fucking wasted.
Exactly. And so look at the insulin, that $35 insulin. I mean, the Republicans have a bill right now to roll that back.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
don't
absolutely.
like that. They're working for big pharma. They're not working for you and me. Also, how long did they scream about defund the police? Democrats want to defund the police. Their budget bill that they just came out with, that they're going to have to reconcile with the Senate to keep the government open, what they came out with was to defund, make major cuts to ATF, FBI, DOJ, the police.
The
They are
police.
the ones defunding the police.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. They do some horrible shit and then they blame it on the Democrats. And
Yes.
I understand the base believing it because they're dumb fucks, you know. There's some
Mm-hmm.
big dumb fuck sitting in southern Alabama who has type 2 diabetes and still will vote for Donald Trump, even though he can't afford insulin to save his fucking life. That's how ignorant these fucking people are. Um, but eventually, as long as we can get the moderates or the independents to see the light, um, there's no way the Republicans can win. And this whole situation with women, they really fucked that one up. I mean, I've been married a long time, and
Yeah.
if they think women are forgetting about overturning Roe v. Wade in 2024, you don't know women. They never forget. And when you take away their
No.
constitutional
No.
rights and try to make them a second class citizen, That's a fucking bad move.
Yeah, especially considering it hasn't been that long. I mean,
No.
I'm a little older than you, but when I was a young whippersnapper, uh, uh, there were no reproductive rights for women. There were no economic rights for women. There was no fault divorce. I mean, you couldn't get a divorce. Your husband could beat the crap out of you every day. You couldn't get a divorce. The pastor would say, "Well, you just got to live with it. You
Yeah.
know, maybe he'll do better. I'll talk to him." I mean, women's lives in the 50s and early 60s, especially, were not good. They were just very second class citizens. So it hasn't been that long, and it can be rolled back. That's what the Republicans want to do. That's why Katie Britt was in a kitchen.
Yeah.
That's where
Well,
they wanted the women to be.
well, people have to understand it was my lifetime. It was your lifetime when women couldn't have credit cards, couldn't buy a car without the
Right.
help of a man, couldn't buy a house without the help of a man. The fact that they even had a job was almost scandalous in some communities. My mom didn't work until she got older and we got into the 70s and she wanted to work but
Mhm.
if you go back to the 60s, that's the only thing I remember because I wasn't born until 1960s. That's
Because
really
of the
what,
drugs, right?
yeah. But that's what the people
I'm kidding.
wanted. That's what the people wanted. They currently want to go back. They want to go back 50, 60 years and
Yes.
put women in their place, as it were, barefoot and pregnant and in the kitchen. They're not ashamed of
And
saying that.
minorities in and minorities in subservient roles. Absolutely. They want that too. They'd love to have those separate drinking fountains again if they could wrangle it.
Yeah,
Trust me.
yeah. It's absolutely dystopian to think. I mean, it's almost like a bad movie that we would go
Yes.
back into those times. And there are a fair amount of people that are saying, yeah, let's do it. I mean, there was one preacher recently. I don't know his name. He was a African
I
American
saw
preacher.
that one.
Yeah, he said, I wish we could
He's
go back to
running
the
for
time.
governor of North Carolina
Right. And he said, I wish we could go back to the
when
time
women
when
couldn't
women can
vote.
vote. Yeah. What the fuck? How, why would you piss off
He's
50% of
running
your
for governor
constituents?
of North Carolina
You think he's going to
because you're
win?
a dumb fuck. That's why. No.
You think that motherfucker's going to win?
If he does, there's something really wrong. No. Well, there was another one. There's a meme been going around. This older minister who was he was saying that women who wear shorts,
Right.
if they're raped, the men should not be charged because men will be men. So this attitude. I mean, this is a minister,
Yeah.
and he's an older minister. So he's been spewing this crap his whole life, right?
Right.
He's been seeing women as temptresses. He's been seeing, and these poor men can't control themselves. You know,
And
I'm
it's
not a
okay.
religious person, but I have never robbed. Yeah, I have never robbed a bank. I have never raped a woman. I have never, you name it. I'm an upstanding citizen, and my religion has nothing to do with it. I have ethics,
Yeah.
and so do other people. And not every man who sees a woman wearing shorts is going to be moved in the direction of rape. No, and no, it is not part of the male condition. It isn't.
No,
And
it's not.
anyone who says it is, don't say it in the same room with me.
No, that's,
I
you know,
warn you.
I would love to interview this guy and say, have you ever seen a woman in shorts?
Yeah.
And of course he will have to say yes. And I go, did you rape her? And if you didn't rape her, why didn't you rape her? And why are you normalizing the idea that men can't control themselves
Right.
in any circumstance? I mean, the ironic thing about it is these people are suggesting things about women that doesn't the Muslim religion force people to cover up, women to cover up? Now, I don't know enough about it to,
Yes.
but
Yes.
that's very much in line with what this guy is saying. And what's ironic, this guy would tell you he hates
Oh,
the Muslim
absolutely.
religion.
Of course. Well, a fundamentalist is a fundamentalist is a fundamentalist.
Yeah.
Uh, and it doesn't really matter the religion. It's all the same. It is projecting your failings on other people, is what it comes down to. Because I lust after women, it's their fault,
Yeah, of
not
course.
mine. No,
No,
no, no. This is natural for me. It's just natural. I'm a guy.
boys
So
will
it
be
must be
boys.
their fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
It,
Exactly. And
it's,
that used to be very prevalent when I was a kid, by the way. That whole attitude was not that this guy is, like I say, he's probably 80, 90 years old, right?
right.
That was the way it was when he was a young man.
Can you imagine?
Boys will be boys.
Can you
Women,
imagine? Can you imagine how many women over the years have been assaulted and it's been completely ignored because of that mentality? How many women suffered that kind of trauma because they knew nobody would do anything about it? And I know I might sound tone deaf myself because I'm a big old white guy, but as I look back over the history and I know the things that happened, uh, it's frightening to think how many women suffered because of those views.
as a matter of fact, I'm going to go this far, and this is from my wife's perspective. Uh, there is probably no woman who grew up in the 60s and 70s who was not at some point groped or had to deal with suggestive situations in the workplace, who was threatened, was actually raped. That almost every woman at some point or other had a bad experience with a male who was in a position where he was her superior or co-worker or something, where she was made to feel uncomfortable, be uncomfortable, or even be assaulted in various ways. Almost all of them probably have one or two or maybe more stories along those lines. And to hear a minister say something like that just really gets my hackles up.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's appalling, and it's a sad commentary on this country from the 60s, 70s up to this day. Right now, there are still people living in that era. All right, Ed, we're going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for stopping in again and bringing us your wisdom brought on by your advanced age. And I will
Such
tell
as
you,
it is.
we did
Yes.
a little
Me
over an
and
hour.
Joe. Me and
Yeah,
Joe.
we did a little over an hour here, and I have to say, you performed well. You didn't seem confused. You didn't seem forgetful. You didn't slur any words. So good on you.
didn't didn't wander off. Didn't wander off.
No,
Did boggle the phone once, but
well,
what the heck.
that shit happens. And when we sign off here, you should look off in the distance and say, "Mommy." That would be a nice send. Anyway, Ed, thank you very much.
Oh.
Those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day. And of course, we'll talk to you again tomorrow.